Hello, hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. My name is Angel Ramirez. We're going to be with you for the rest of the evening and the day so that we can go ahead and start La Mañanera de López Obrador every day here at around 7 or 8 a.m. Central Time. Hopefully, that is not too early for you, but we'll be here. You can always find us on the live section, en la sección de en vivos. Estas grabaciones siempre van a ser en vivo, a veces un poquito tarde, pero normalmente todos los días vamos a estar aquí con ustedes. Good morning, welcome to all my special invites. Bienvenidos a mis invitados especiales: Daniel Andrade, Eric Suárez, Michael López, Arturo Solís, Jocelyn Velázquez, Lorena Salazar, Gilbert ESP, and Cabrón Canijo. He's our new member now. Welcome to all of you. Let's go ahead and start. Good morning. Remember, we've been with you since, hemos estado con ustedes desde junio, grabando, a veces en la mañana, a veces en la tarde, noche, pero siempre con ustedes. Yo creo que por ahí nos perdimos de 2 o 3 días. Me enfermé la semana pasada. I got sick last week, so we're missing about 3 or 4 days. Vamos a estar retransmitiendo esos el fin de semana, espero. Hopefully that will be covering those missing days in probably next week, probably on Sunday, because tomorrow los invito a todos al Zócalo. A todos, por favor, al Zócalo. Los invito. You're invited to the Zócalo tomorrow morning. Well, tomorrow afternoon, actually. All right, here we go. Buenos días, good morning. Ánimo.
Estuvo bien la cepillada.
This morning was okay.
Vamos a hablar más tarde de eso.
What we were talking about. We're going to talk about what we were seeing this morning, but I want to inform about the advancements that we've had in the rescuing of the industry, oil industry. It's really important that it's been solicited here to inform about how we've advanced in rescuing the petroleum industry that, of course, was in honest decadence because they wanted to destroy it. They managed to do so to a certain extent when it comes to petrochemical. We had a petrochemical industry of the best kind, and they managed to bring it down, to destroy it in a way. And the same way in the refineries. It's only a thing of thinking that in 40 years, not one refinery was created and or made. Not one. And this coincides, of course, with the entire neoliberal period, because we bet on selling crude oil and purchasing gas, refined gas, in foreign lands or foreign countries. We were left with 6 refineries, of course, but that were constructed in the entire history in a very sad situation. They were even selling parts of it. Parts of all of those of the refineries. And in petroleum production, the same thing. It was infamy, the lying, that with the supposed energetic reform, that there was going to be foreign investments in great quantities, and that they were going to extract a lot of petroleum. They were doing these calculations that with this supposed reform, we were going to have a extraction of about 3 million barrels per day. So what happened? They ceded the contracts to the national and international companies, 110 contracts to explore and exploit petroleum with of shared utility, so they called it. And among those 110 contracts, only 3 are been taken underway. And of 3 million barrels, what they are doing now, it doesn't go over 50,000 barrels per day. Fortunately, it was decided to, from the beginning, to explore. We found new locations. The production politic changed. Instead of investing in exploration and searching in deep waters where there is no petroleum or it costs a lot to extract, we decided to transfer the whole investment to the southeast to extract in land and in shallow waters. And this worked for us because we do have reserves, enough reserves, and we managed to avoid the fall in the production of oil. If we hadn't done that as we did, we would be importing crude oil as well. From that size was the irresponsible attitude of whom this was assigned to in the petroleum political way of thinking. So it's really important that you all know what is being done now, and that the people of Mexico know that we are rescuing the petroleum industry. This, of course, is part of what inspires us. It's the decree of original expropriating decree that General Lázaro Cárdenas submitted on the 18th of March of 38. So this is why we're going to be joining tomorrow, a day after tomorrow, on Saturday. I'll tell everybody that wants to join, we're going to be in El Zócalo Saturday at 5 p.m. I will be there too, so I invite you all to reaffirm our principles of independence and sovereignty in what is related to the electrical industry, of course, and petroleum industry. So then, there's going to be an exposition for you of what we are doing now in this realm the director of Pemex and the director of Power. And after that, we will be opening up for questions and answers right now. Welcome, everybody. Gracias por estar conmigo. Good morning, Mr. President. With your permission, good morning to all. So we're going to be doing a report on the projects of rehabilitations of the refineries in Mexico. In the national system of refinery of Pemex, there exist 7 refineries located in Ciudad Madero, Tamaulipas, Cadereyta, Salamanca, Tula, Minatitlán, Salina Cruz, and another one in the U.S. that in Deer Park. Since the beginning of this government, Mr. President Andres Manuel instructed Pemex and the Secretary of Power to activate an emergent program to start the 6 refineries up again that were down due to lack of maintenance. It's so much so that since 2019, we've started with a program of rehabilitation in the 6 refineries. There was minor maintenance work that are changes of valves, power, cleaning of equipment to remove hydrocarbon, and a lot of equipment that are critical, such as changing of tubing, pressure resistant, and internal equipment of energy as well. This is aside from the maintenance of regular work and the operation of the refineries. In 2019, there was 84 direct interventions. In 2020, we had 51 of major interference, and then we had 115 of minor maintenance interventions. And in March, of course, we had 32 in major maintenance and 102 of minor. In 2022, there was 104 interventions. Of the ones, 14 were major and 90 are minor. 2021, 32 and 05. And 2023, we've got 39 major reparations and 186 minor reparations, of a total of 225 rehabilitation actions that come in as a direct investment independently of the operation. For these types of actions, the investment is of 68,000, more than 68,000 million pesos, historic number, to be able to recuperate our Mexican refineries. Just as we show here in this chart, we've invested year per year in the 6 different refineries, and in this year, of course, we have contemplated, we've invested 1,300 million, and at the end of the year it's going to be 14,813 million. With this, we've managed to get production up. That we had 35% production, now we got 72% production. When this administration started, only 2 refineries were working at 100%. Cadet Salamanca, Salida Cruz, was out of operation due to a fire, and Tula was without conditions of operation because valves, tubing, mainly were out of specification because of security situations. Madero location had almost a year and a half without operating because of damages in tubing, supposed called transfer line. Minatitlán was out, and Maya was out due to a fire as well. By April of 19, we were getting the 6 locations operating, even with a train of refinery arriving there. You can see where we've applied every resource in every refinery year per year. Up to 2022, we've done 46,775,000, independently of the $6 million that were acquired for the acquisition of Deer Park in Texas. In this way, we've invested slowly but surely, but we've started the recuperation of this process. Today, we have a process of 922,000 barrels per day, which is equivalent to 76%, and the compromise is to process 1,200,000 barrels by part of the refinery. Give me a second here. And the refinery of Tula is also Coquizadora plant started its construction in the last presidency, but it was interrupted and ended up being abandoned. This government had to make the decision to retake the project since it's been invested $1,600 million. And aside from this plant, this is necessary to eliminate the combustibles from the two refineries from Tula and Salamanca. They're going to be giving service to these two refineries to these cotizadora plants. The cost will be $2,800 million. This project also includes 5 new plants of service, the Aminas, Aguas Amargas, 2 hydro desulfuring, 2 hydro plants, and 1 cooling tower. Up to date, we have an advancement of 88% in the construction of the Coquizadora plants, and the rest processing plants, they have the footing, they are already being built, and the engineering is already at 78%. They are being located in different parts of the world and in Mexico. The making and fabricating of important parts, the 2 buildings of the substations are already been built, and to November of 2023, we should be able to have been done of the Coquizadora plants to restart the circulation of the process, and the other service plants will be under construction shortly. And the next one is Salina Cruz, where we have a project as well. This is an image of the refinery, where you can see the yellow blocks are the new plants that are being built, Coquizadora and the service plants, where you can see the green blocks are auxiliary services, and in the orange section there are reconfigurations that we are doing to the plant so they can process a bigger volume. This refinery, of course, produces combustibles, and we've taken the decision to do the project so that we can eliminate that. We've started the work in August of 2022, and up to date, you can find the footing, the deep footing of the 5 plants of processing and the 2 substations. The critical equipment has been already in place for fabrication, and the engineering is already being developed. Up to August to 2024, we should have already been finished with the actual construction phase. There's more than 1,500 workers in this project, and the cost of investment is $3,100 million. In the next phase, we're going to see what is the advantage of doing these projects. Tula and Salina Cruz, for example, right now the capacity to produce gasoline in Tula is of 87,000 barrels, more of 87.5 thousand barrels. With this, when this ends, it's going to have a capability of 129,000 barrels per day. And we are also going to be processing by making diesel and gasoline, and Salina Cruz from 88.1 thousand barrels a day, we're going to end up producing 127.4 thousand barrels a day. This is going to be an increasement of 48%. In total, we're going to be adding to 159,000 barrels per day and 256 of gasoline. That gives us an advantage of 60% of those two refineries. And of course, it is a sulfur type of work. The refinery Olmeca in Dos Bocas is a project of construction, as we all know. This project, of course, initiated its work in 2019, the construction of a refinery in processing plants, 90 tanks of refineries, warehouses, maintenance, buildings, laboratories, control labs, external labs such as gasoducts, aqueducts, monoboyas, opening railways, as well as the other phases have been done in 2022, and now we've gotten in testing phase most of these locations. The cost of this project is $12,000 million. In this moment in site, we are working with 35,000, more than 35,000 workers from all around Mexico. It has a containment of 62% of provider and manpower, and 3 different companies that are in charge of the work construction. This work has had more than 50,000 work related and indirect types of jobs. We're going to have 170,000 gasoline barrels and as well as diesel per day. And the program is that in July we can start the first phase of refinery. 3 months will be passing before we can stabilize that train. And in September we would come in with the second train to stabilize the other 3 months. And to show you some advancements, we have a video of these great working projects that the President of Mexico has authorized. The growth of the country depends on renewable and good energy, so it is a priority for the government of Mexico. The dependency of resources of the exterior represents vulnerability up to the volatility of the national developments and putting it at risk. The prior presidency interrupted the modernization and the capability, reducing its capability to produce this valuable asset. And this campaign of refinery through other presidencies caused it to produce under 48% and reducing the exportation of hydrocarbons. The strategy pushed by this administration ensures the development calibrated work to make Mexico auto-efficient and to be able to reach the sovereignty with 1,540,000 barrels of crude oil to produce gasoline and diesel within the Mexican territory. In the 7 refineries that complete the system of refinery, aside from the production of Deer Park that will contribute with the processing of 340,000 barrels per day, the 3 areas that allow us to reach auto-efficiencies are: 1, rehabilitation of the national system of refineries, considering the maintenance of the plants of processing, tanks, and components of auxiliary services, reaching to a production of 1.2 million barrels per day. Two, the investing and the taking advantage of residual areas and the quoting of the Tula area refinery will permit refining combustibles of major value, eliminating the production of cheap combustibles, generating diesel and liquid gas. Also, it's expected that Tula refinery can process 240 million barrels a day and 59,000 barrels of combustible coming from refinery of Salamanca. And in the same way, the taking advantage of residuals and the quoting of Salina Cruz will allow an increment in the production of gasoline and diesel and the reduction of combustibles, which is a low budget or low income project, and it will allow us to provide 38,500 barrels per day of gasoline and 81,800 barrels a day of diesel. And three, the construction of the Olmeca refinery in Dos Bocas that will process 340,000 crude barrels of oil to obtain 170,000 of gasoline and 120,000 of diesel, lower cost, producing more than 30% of the import, reducing the import to down to 30%. And we've managed to increase the capacity from 35 to 72% of production in the national system of refinery. It is to consolidate the energetic power. It's priority of the government of Mexico because it means the creation of a new look in production and combustibles that contribute to the growth of the country. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Hopefully that you can leave that like. With your permission, Mr. President, a very good morning to all the media members. We're going to be presenting two principal points that has to do with the production of crude oil, the historical fall, and what we're doing in this administration of crude oil, and to show you as well how the importations have been going down of gasoline. So this is really important. Mr. President, if you can allow me. In this graph, we can see the historical part of liquid combustibles that we had. For example, in 2004, we managed to get almost 3.4 million barrels per day, and how the minimizing through the years. There was a period in 2009 and 13-14 where more or less the production was sustained. It had already fallen a little bit, and then how it just plummeted to 2018 to 1.7 million barrels, and on 19 where we hit bottom at 1642. How does this fall being explained of the production of gasolines? This other graph, we're dividing in what Cantarelli was producing. In 2004 was taken to its maximum point of production to almost 2,136,000 barrels. They sustained it up to 2005, up over the 2 million, and then in a dramatical way, how Cantarell drops in production down to arriving to levels in 2018 to 159,000 barrels to 148,000 in 2019. We can also see that this gray segment that refers to the second field in Pemex, which is Cumalosa. Cumalosa shows in this times with little or no production, and justly when Cantarell drops in a dramatic way, you can see Kumalusa starts producing a little more, and that is what explains how production is sustained about 4 or 5 years. And you can see how Comaylosa also drops, but not only Comaylosa, but all the southeast and Tabasco areas and in Campeche also drop in such a way that nowadays Comaylosa is producing, now we've stabilized it in about 625,000 barrels a day. This is the graph where what we can find of what we got once we started the administration. In this next one, you can see from November of 2018, 1,800,000, and then our administration begins right here. In 2019, 1.7 million per day. In 2020, 1.7. But you can see this section indicates in 2020 there was an OPEP agreement to minimize 100,000 barrels for our country for about 5 months. When we analyzed, better said, when we do the average of those 100,000, it ended up in 38,000 barrels that we didn't produce. Wanting to, if we wanted to, if we had produced the 38%, we've gotten 1743. But in 2021, we got 1756. In 22, 1,785, and in March of this year, 1875, and today, yesterday is reporting of 1,915 barrels per day. What is the goal of this year? In average of almost 2,000 barrels a day, and at the end of 2023, the 2 million barrels a day. That would be the goal that the president has indicated to us, that where we need to stay, because with these 2 million barrels a day, we practically would be guaranteeing the auto-efficiency in our country of fuel. This historical site from Vegas, you could see in 2019 there was 6,534 BCS of gas and how it was falling. Almost 3 VCFs less in these years. The next one in the same way, but from the 6,534, this is what Cantaleri would bring in, almost Cantarell, and Kumalosa was at 326 cubic feet of gas, basically the same information. The next one here you can see is the bringing up of gas. On the 18, we received 3,811, and today in March we are at 4.159, and up until today we are at 4.224, and our average expected at 4.240, and the next year at 4.8 BCFs. So we are talking about the processing of crude oil in our refinery. We processed 1,300,000 barrels per day, and pretty much kept it up to 2009, where they fall to 1.184 million. They maintained that up to 14th, and to the energetic reform, look at how it fell because of the lack of investments. From 1,065,000 in 2015, we received 519 million in processing in 6 different refineries. So it's a historical way of working of the crude oil irresponsibly. And the rehabilitation program as well started to generate now bigger processing of crude oil. At 2019, in the COVID years, it was at 592. In 2021 was 712, and 2021 712, and 2022 is 816. And we can see this yellow part here, where it means basically the coming of the process of crude oil of Deer Park in Texas. So this means that we are at 1,100,000 barrels a day in process. Between January and March, more or less, we have the same situation because of that in January and February the cold temperatures came in, but we are about the same. And the idea is that in March we're going to be able to reach 1.2 million barrels a day, and of course with the help of Deer Park in Texas. This graph here is really important because you can see the historical production of gas and turbocene. So we can see the same thing that in 2004, you can see that the production on the 6 refineries was 853,000 barrels. And this would be the average managing, and we see up to where the energy reform comes in 2016. It drops due to lack of investments, and we received in 2018 300,000 barrels in gasoline production only, from being at 853,000. And then you can see, starting from what we got of 300 a day, what the increase has been slowly. At 2019 was 362, 2020 was the COVID years, 317. You can see a slight drop there. But back in 2021, we were back at 379 on the 6 refineries. In 2022 was 450, plus Deer Park in yellow at 236. Combined, we had a total of 686 of production in our country from the 300 that we received in this year. January and March at 660, because of the weather, of course, went down a little bit, but at the end we're going to be averaging at 720,000 barrels of gasoline and turbocene in the 6 refineries of production, and of course including Deer Park as well. And this is the evolution and the production and the deficit of combustibles. It's really important because this in red here, this 901 in red, it's the amount of gasoline barrels, diesel, turbocene that was imported in 2018. That's what we got in our administration, with an importation rate of 901 and a production of 359. This is practically in the 80% of consumption that in the country we had, it was imported. In 2019, it was similar. In 2020, we had a minimization in the importation from 901 to 720. And in 21, it was incremented a little bit of the processing of refineries. And this is the importation, 731. On 2022, we can see that you can see a bigger change now. The reduction of importation, 8 at 598, from 900 to less of 600,000. And the production goes up slowly, but then you see in 2023, this year, production, and this is the importation, 239 here, the 32 in red for the whole year. To close in 2024, we expect, practically with the auto efficiency of combustibles in the country, the importation will be really marginal, the importation. Let me re-explain this with the next graph. As you can see, this is, again, the same number in red of importations. Why is it that in 2022 we've started to minimize the importation? Because of Deer Park. These are the gasolines that Deer Park produces in yellow. In 2023, Deer Park, again here at 244, and these 128 in blue is the Dos Bocas refinery that we have projected that comes in from July of this year and will be able to provide 128,000 barrels. And these 7,000 is Tula refinery that will be concluded in the last few months of this year, and that will be adding to 7,000 barrels a day. And this is the production from SNR, Deer Park, and 306,000 of Tula, and the Tula not 100% yet, of course. And there's a small part here of the refinery of Salina Cruz that will give 8,000. Of course, this will take us to 2024 at 34,000 barrels a day. Of course, in 2025, with the processing of Tula at 100% and Salina Cruz at 100%, we're going to be at way over, on positive numbers when it comes to production of gasolines. So this is the explanation and the projection that we have of the deficit of combustibles. With this, I conclude the presentation, Mr. President. That's great news, if you let me tell you. Son buenas noticias, eso. Only to mention to you that, so we can have an idea that this politic of auto efficiency, energetic efficiency, has helped us a lot to not increase the pricing of the combustibles. And I would like really to be able to present the chart of the costs of the combustibles so that we can have a general idea, because all this has a purpose, so that the pricing doesn't go up of the combustibles, and of course that in Mexico we can get a production of what we consume, gasolines, diesels, but also that the pricing doesn't go up, as has been happening. And I also want the one, let's see if we can get the one from Thursdays. Hopefully that you can find it. Maybe Carlos Torres could. Maybe Laura can send us only the behavior of the pricing of the combustibles. Maybe we can get that up. These were compromises that we did from the campaigns. we said, well, we're gonna stop purchasing combustibles in foreign lands from out of the country, because it's, amongst other things, a very absurd thing that we can sell the way of working and that we purchase gasoline. It's like selling oranges and then buying juice, orange juice. That's how the neoliberal political way of working was. That we have the raw material, we purchase the raw material, and that we also purchase the gas. So this wasn't because of the projection, but even if it seems incredible, what they wanted was to destroy the oil industry, to privatize petroleum, electrical industry, the whole thing. Fortunately, people of Mexico said that's enough. And the change started.
En el caso de la gasolina magna, en el tiempo de Calderón aumentó 22.9% el precio. Con Peña Nieto, 42.8% de aumento. Y con nosotros ha habido una disminución.
And with us, you can see the reduction of 7.7%. As General Mujica would say, we need facts, not words.
A ver si está el diésel. Esta es la premium. 5.7 de aumento con Calderón.
There was 5.7 increase, 46% increase with Peña Nieto, and with us a minimization of the pricing at minus 5.6. Diesels, we are looking at 49, almost 50% more of pricing in diesel, 48% of increase. Calderón with Peña Nieto was 48.6, and with us 7.5 minus. This is the gas, LP gas, 1.5% minus Calderón, almost 29% with Peña, and 13.6 less with us. So that's how we're gonna go through the commemoration of the 18th of March in Saturday at 5 p.m. 2 days from now. So before we start to the questioning and the answers, we're really happy to say that to all of us that we like baseball, and I think all of us that we enjoy sports in general, because it came from losing the first game and then winning the Clásico of World Series. Mexico won and came in as first place, actually. Defeated US, England, and yesterday defeated Canada. 10-3. And they're coming into the final. It's going to be in Miami. They're going to be going against Puerto Rico, is a team that defeated República Dominicana, but They were on a winning spree. I think it's going to be tomorrow in Miami, and hopefully that we could see just a few, a small section, a fourth inning maybe. Look at this. I'm sorry, I'm not good at translating sports, but we'll do our best. No soy muy bueno para la transmisión de deportes, pero no, no, I don't want that. He wants to see where there's full bases because there's one base per ball, and then you fill up the bases, and then you got a Rosarena, a bat, a Cuban in origin but nationalized Mexican. And look at what he does. Oh, there it is in English.
2-1 pitch is in the air. Shallow right. Casey is there and makes the catch. Andrew Albers has picked up where Philippe Aumont left off. Slicing liner, Arozarena on the run. Adrian Martinez in relief of Jose Urquidy. Mexico protecting. Canada's trying to do something they've never done in the World Baseball Classic. They've never advanced. Breaking ball, fly ball, center field, not real deep, and it's going to fall. Base hit. Runner going to third. Throw from Clark, not in time, and safe there.
Boy, what a good read by Urias, the base runner.
And not a great defensive sequence at all for Canada. And they're loaded, and it's Arozarena who's coming up. Ground ball, that's fair. Down the line. Urias scores. Thomas scores. Barnes coming home. He will score. Mexico, 6-2.
What a player. We have seen him perform at this level in the World Series.
Up the middle. That's a base hit. 7-2.
And you get these RBI guys to play with runners.
Ya. Muy bien a Rosarena.
Okay, so that's good enough. So there was 5 runs produced, and the team is looking really good. A really good pitching. Benjamin Gil is conducting that in a perfect way. Switching, changing pitchers when he has to. He's really good at the pitching, and hopefully that we can get a good finalization of the tournament. So I'm going to start with you.
Aquí, ahí, si quieres.
Very good morning, Mr. President. To you and all the people here, my name is Daniel Roblesarro, and this is what you're listening in a synthesized voice that assists me to express my ideas. On my disability is known as severe cerebral paralysis. Overall, I don't speak, I don't walk. I only can control my eyes. There are like the lemons that life provided. With these and just a little bit of technology, I am good to go. So that I don't speak alike and with respect to everybody else, I have 2 simple questions, and those concrete proposals that, if it's undertaken, will benefit thousands of people with a disability and their families, if I am allowed. Number 1. Do you know the communication realms of alternative communication? Do you allow me to explain? Yes, please, go ahead. Oh, this is really nice. Can we show you the chart that we brought in? I guess we're going to be showing a chart. Van a estar mostrando una presentación pequeña. The communication alternative charts in short words, it's almost like an imaginary pictograph, and each one of these represents a concept, a word, and they are of major assistance that with any disability of health or health that can't speak. For example, a lot of kids with autism, they signal the image that represent what they want to express. Elderly, because of health or emboli or a traumatism or surgery, can't speak. This could be a great way of communication with their loved ones. I point out with my eyes and show a picture that turns into a voice via cell phone. I think a real few things are terrible that a person that is conscious and thinker not to be able to express themselves for their necessities, from the most basic needs to the most complex. It is really important to mention that a chart such as this, it could be done with a paper in a book, a writing book, or you can even print them in the stores. I am fortunate to have a cell phone, but this can be accessible to all the people that need that. And that's why I ask your assistance to contact the Secretary of Education so that you can propose this of alternative communication and allowing the free promulgation of this process. It would be inclusive. What do you think about this? And if you allow me a second question. Okay, second one. My second choice is with urban accessibility, and it doesn't require a lot of investment. It's more or less of empathy and will. The question is, if you were in charge of a person that due because of health or disability cannot handle themselves, how or where would you change the diaper or help them dress being in a public place? For example, in a hospital, I solicit the Soy Robledo audience where we wait for hours in a building of paperwork, in a park or in a gas station. And why not? And even in a recreational location. And then why don't we ever go out? There are no conditions to do so. And in general, we see ourselves in a shameful way to change ourselves in a dirty place, or just be dirty most of the time, or simply just don't leave out our houses. And it's really difficult to have somebody to carry us around. They break their backs for us. And since a while, I'm looking to reform the ruling of public accessing for disability people, fixing a changer of a bigger size that the same thing works for a baby, a disability person, or an elderly person. I'm really not sure where to go on this because I've already gone to the Senate and I have not gotten a response. You can tell me where and how to go, and I'll go. And another thing, in Zapopan, Jalisco, this is a reality already, and I bring you some images so that you can get an idea. I would love that this would be extended to all of the country. I want to have a country that is just, inclusive, and accessible. And I'd also love to have me here again. I think that for 10 hours a day, a week of conference, 5 minutes of my speech would not hurt anybody. And I want to thank you for bringing this opportunity to speak. Very well.
Pues acerca de los libros
Well, about the books,
especiales,
special
le vamos
books
a
that you
pedir
request,
a la
we're going to be
secretaria
asking Secretary
de Educación
of Education
que
to
se dé una respuesta.
get an answer
Leticia
from them,
Ramírez,
from
secretaria de
Leticia
Educación.
Ramirez, Secretary of
Hoy mismo.
Education, today.
Y
And
acerca de
about
los baños especiales
the special
para
restrooms
la atención
for the special
a quienes
attention,
tienen
special
capacidades
needs.
diferentes. Sería muy bueno que
Would be very good
se empezara
that we can start
aquí en la ciudad
here in the city, Mexico City. Why not?
y le vamos a pedir a la jefa de gobierno
And we're going to ask the governor of the city of Mexico so that she can speak with you,
contigo.
that she
Y
can speak
están
with you,
invitados
and
para
you're all
asistir,
invited
para venir
to come
cuando,
when
llegue
you consider it
aquí a la
here in the conference.
rueda de prensa. Es importante
It's really important
se sepa
that it's
que
known
nosotros estamos
that we
atendiendo
are
como
attending
nunca se había hecho
as ever before
a personas con discapacidad.
to people with disabilities such as yours. In this
Todas las
country,
niñas y
all the
niños
girls and
con
boys
discapacidad,
with disabilities have a grant,
todos.
a scholarship type.
Él la tiene, ¿verdad?
He has it, right? Okay.
Eso nunca
That has never
se había hecho. Más de un
been
millón
done. More than
de
1 million
niños
of children
tienen sus becas. Y hay
have their grants, scholarships.
buena noticia
And there's a
también.
good, a little bit more good news
Se dan estas
that
becas
these
a todos los discapacitados,
grants
niños,
are given
niñas,
to all
hasta
the
29 años.
disabled children up to 29 years old.
Así comenzó
So that's how it started,
este programa.
this program.
Y ahora
And nowadays,
se está llegando a acuerdos con los
we
gobiernos
are
estatales
coming to agreements with the state
para
governing
que
officials
de 30
so
a
that from
65
30 to 65 years old,
los discapacitados también
the
reciban
disabled also
su pensión,
get their pension,
porque era nada más, repito, hasta 29 años.
because it was just up to 29, but disabled people from 30 to 64, they were not contemplated.
Se llegó a un acuerdo
So there was an agreement
para que los gobiernos estatales aporten el 50% y el gobierno federal el otro 50% y se pueda cubrir
for the state legislation to cover 50%, and we cover as federal the other 50.
un estado.
And so we can cover all the disabled people of a state,
Discapacidad
meaning that the pension to disability would be universal
todos,
to everybody.
que ya a partir de los 65
Because starting from 65,
el derecho
they would have the right for the adult pensions.
ya llevamos
As up to date, we have more than half of the states taken care of,
en donde los gobernadores han aceptado
where the
pagar
governors have accepted to provide 50%.
Esta es una muy buena noticia.
This, of course, is
Pero
great news.
estábamos conscientes
But we are conscious
de que no basta con la pensión,
that it's not enough with the
el
pension.
tratamiento,
The
hace
treatments
falta las terapias,
is needed, therapies,
porque hay discapacidades
because we have disabilities that
que como no se pueden tratar,
are small, and since they can't be treated
hay pobreza
because there's poverty
y además no hay atención médica
and there's
especializada.
no
Esas discapacidades
specialized
no se ven
medical attention, these non-severe disabilities, with time they turn into grave
Entonces,
situations. So then we need to give
no
continuation
solo
not only assisting with the grants, with the pensions, but with the treatments, medical treatments, with therapy, rehabilitation. That's why we have an agreement now with the centers of Teleton, and we are backing them up with 20,000 grants for rehabilitation. And this, of course, what you are telling us, Daniel, what he is planning. Long live Daniel.
También debe ser atendido. Y vamos a empezar, aunque
what he's planning, that he can be taken care of, and so that we can leave the administration, that we can begin what you're proposing. That's my response to you. Can you also assist us to spread out the correct term from disability to people with disability?
Personas con discapacidad. Muchísimas gracias. Sí, es que primero era discapacidad, luego capacidades diferentes o distintas.
Now it's people with disabilities, so that we can say it correctly, the lady asked. So we were with a partner from Oaxaca. Mr. President, good morning. Thank you for always, because all the Oaxaca people are appreciative. A lot of situations that it's a reality here in the conference. I remember an occasion in Tlaxiaco, Oaxaca, migrants are also thankful to you because now they're going to be able to vote with a migratory cedula, and only with the passport it would be 50 million votes that people that bring in the main income of the country with the sending of dollars to Mexico. Aside from the fact that they can also count with their RFC, that is a transcendent and important situation, so that they can obtain resources as a direct way. It's a process, but it's a great step. And thank you about the road in Tejupa, that the governor of Salomon Jara said that it was going to be a reality. It's 19 kilometers, but 19 kilometers that are the axis of the Mixteca to the center of the country and the developments, national developments. And after that, I've been here since Tuesday, and I think it's helpful, my presence, because I wanted to speak about health situations in the communities. We are worried for the health of the nation and of our people. What can we do, Mr. President, due to this mental sicknesses that are increasing? We need to invest in that. Another thing that worries us is the food situation. Any kid that goes to the local stores, the first things that they see is junk food with very, very low nutritional content and a lot of caloric content. And I ask all the people that to imagine to the store, the first thing that they see is sodas and junk food. That's the first thing that they see, and that's the first thing that the kid sees. And the third, another situation that worries us is the water. Rivers, lagoons, lakes are or contaminated or dry. We need to be assisted in this situation and ask you in these three subjects of health, what is being done and what we are going to get. Well, we are bettering the whole public system of health, guaranteeing the rights to health, of course, and that's how Pemex was left, and the health system was left in ruins.
y se está levantando, se está construyendo el sistema de salud con la estrategia del IMSS Bienestar. Ese hospital de Tlaxiaco que se construyó o se terminó porque estaba en el abandono, pues ese es un reflejo, ¿no?, de lo que recibimos, de esa herencia.
And this is a reflection of what we have now, of hundreds of abandoned centers of health, because what we had was a great corruption in all. Of course, they started the construction of the hospitals just because they were interested in the contracts, and mainly of the bribes, the cuts that the contractor would give, and they would leave work inconclusive.
No lo equipaban, porque un hospital,
because a hospital, of course,
puede costar 500 millones, pero
constructing could cost $500 million, but equip it and operate it are $500 million pesos, $1 million more. And so, what they would do is the civil work, if anything. And now we are working on these inconclusive locations, center of health locations. We're equipping that, and we are guaranteeing the supply of medical insumes, because corrupt political, they would steal the money of the medicine. It was a monopoly, unstoppable, all that had to do with the selling of medicine. I remember 5 companies, not even laboratories, distributors vinculated to politicians, would sell the government 100 million pesos per year in medication. There was this mafia that didn't allow to purchase the medication from foreign countries. They had to be purchased by them, low quality, adulterated. There's this web of medicine traffickers vinculated with information media. Well, that, of course, we're resolving. We have supply for this whole year and next year. We can actually guarantee that there are no lack of or shortages of medication. The main problem with the lack of medical staff, and especially of specialized medical staff, in particular, of course, we don't have the sufficient medical staff that the country needs. That's another inheritance of nefastus times of the neoliberal periods, because they wanted to privatize education and reject the young people that wanted to study with the lie that they wouldn't pass the exams. So much so that in a professional level and specialization or doctrines, that would scare them away. And so the results was the same as Pemex. Here we would need to purchase 80% of the gas that we consumed. In the case of the medics, we don't have enough medical staff in the country that we need. We don't. And even more when it means of specialty staff, doctors that need to go over to rural locations of the furthest locations. So we're making, teaching, producing more medics for the scholarships for specialties, and we are hiring doctors from out of the country, and we have 15 states out of the 32 where this Tuesday it was informed that we have health centers, hospitals in good working situation, equipped with general and specialty medics, and we have more than 90% of the supply, and all for free. There are no registers in the hospitals, cash registers. And when I talk about free, we're not just speaking about the basics. Medication, it's all the medication. It's to guarantee the health situation. And I compromise myself, and I guarantee that this year we're going to have first-class service when it comes to all Mexicans that don't have Social Security, which is half of the population. So we're advancing on that. We are also advancing in informing that it's fundamental, precisely for the health, the having a good feeding is like a preventive medicine to know how to feed ourselves. And that, of course, doesn't mean to eat things that are expensive or industrialized. We've already spoken a lot about this, and that we need to go back to traditional feeding that is full of vitamins. Where do you get the vitamins from? Well, in the fruit. Mexico is a country where, fortunately, has a lot of fruit. Variety of fruit. Seasoned fruits that are not expensive. But this, of course, has to be spread out. Needs to be known. A great big jar of pineapple that is in season now. But just imagine a jar of black liquid. What's healthier? Pineapple jar, of course. Which one is less expensive? The jar of piña. And we know a jug of pineapple, the other things, we don't know what it is. So it's vitamin, proteins of beans. And of course, some meats. And before, and above all, in the rural areas, there was
gallinas y pollos
chicken,
y pavos y
turkeys, pigs.
Había una economía de patio, de autoconsumo.
There was this economy of auto
Luego empezaron
consumption, and then they started with
los llamados pollos y huevos
the so-called
de granja.
chicken and eggs of the farms.
En vez de tener la gallina y el pollo y recoger el huevito de la gallina y del gallo y la gallina,
And then with the
compradas.
egg consumption purchased,
Hay que
then we're going to be bringing that price down. In the case of the farming and the fields, go to auto efficiency in very different locations. Take care of the feeding, ways of feeding. And in the case, of course, of the carbohydrates, we have corn. That is a holy plant that is produced everywhere, in coasts, in the valleys, sierras, cold, hot weather, south, east, center, north. Without corn, there's no country. We're just taking care of the fact that it's not transgenic. A few people don't like that, but they're going to be understanding, of course, of that fact that we need a good feeding and no to the junk food. Not only because there's a lot of salt, a lot of sugar, a lot of chemicals, conservative material. Not only that, but they're expensive. A little bag of chips, for example. Just imagine how much. If you purchase the potato and you make it at home, a lot cheaper, and a lot healthier. It's not full of salt and oil. So it's the same thing in the case of the drinks and the sodas. It's really sad that due to the publicity, that there's a lot of consumption of bottled sodas, being that there's a lot of fruit. Many other drinks, chilate, pozol we got, just to mention. Healthy drinks. Pinole. Tascalate. Matalí, huh? Here Jesus, for example, has a campaign of orientation campaign, nutritional orientation, and this Rios will bring up every time. He would have that purpose of orienting to not eat junk food. He would speak a lot of nutrition. Do you remember what he said? The stomach is first, belly is first. The belly comes first. So we can continue cleaning the waterways, the rivers, lagoons, take care of our natural resources. Soon we're going to get an initiative in that sense. We're going to be taking a decision for the taking care of the water. We're working on that. Mr. President, so I want to inform you that in Oaxaca we've advanced with the new government of Salomon Jabe, but sadly we are living a violence wave of homicides, a lot of feminicides, and I think it's 35, 36 per day. And recently, there's another conflict in between Tlaxiaco and San Miguel el Grande, where the intervention could be needed, federal realm, because there's accusations on both ends. There's people taken out of their homes, burned homes, psychological situations to children and elderly, and to solicit the situation of health, emulating the sports that is preventive. In another occasion, I wanted to ask you, your assistants that competed in Thailand, thanks to your intervention, they were able to go and complete that dream. But it's not only that, but it's the young people in Coquila that do sports, and they want areas for them. They do it in just the fields. And in Deportivo Luz Vega, that requires rehabilitation. This is historic location for Tlaxiaco, and also a location of farming for the meats, chicken farm for the meat, and at the end, Tlaxiaco Hospital was in a model of Nayarit because of lack of doctor staff. There are still medication that were missing, and see what happened to the oldest installations. My second question, I had an opportunity of having an interview with Daniel Becker, a banker that is in the convention of international banks, and the interviewer, he insisted that the economy was bad. Daniel Becker assured that there's been a good treatment of the economy. He was also asked about the INE, if they're going to be creating a lack of trust. He said no. One thing is political and another is economical, more or less. And I insisted the interviewer to tell them that when the U.S. has a cold, Mexico gets pulmonary infection. And Daniel Becker again discarded the situation and said that, and he actually placed as a reference the old crisis of the banks and said Mexico actually never got touched on that. I'm not sure if you had the opportunity to see this interview, but if not, the opinion, I felt that it was really asserted, aside from the tendent questions that Carlos Loret de Mora actually did. And do the bankers have confidence in your governments? Well, the economy is good. It's getting better. So that you you can make a note of it. I can tell you that now it's not like before, such as was in liberalism times, that in fact they would get a cold there in the U.S. and here we would get worse. Now it's the other way around. Over there, the banks can go bankrupt and nothing happens to us. Or things good happen. I'm going to go today to the inauguration of the bank convention, and I can tell you that last year, for example, was the year where more utility was obtained from the banking in our country. More or less 200,000 million pesos of utilities. So then they can't say that it's wrong, that the economy is wrong. It's wrong maybe for Loret because he's not receiving anything from us, from the governments that he used to get.
tiene la influencia
He doesn't have those influences that he used to have.
que tenía antes. Y para otros,
And for others,
pero
of course.
realmente los empresarios,
But
los
really,
banqueros,
the
los
entrepreneurs,
hombres
bankers, businessmen
saben
know
que están bien las finanzas
that
públicas,
they
que
are
está creciendo la economía.
financial situations are getting better. And the most important thing is that just as they are obtaining utilities, the bankers, the
así también
businessmen, also
se están beneficiando los trabajadores.
the workers are being benefited. It's more or less like a record.
El salario
The payment, the salary, the average salary
de los trabajadores inscritos al Seguro Social. Son dos récords. Uno, que por primera vez hay 21
because from now we can see that there's 21,700,000
trabajadores inscritos
workers
en el Seguro Social. Nunca
in Social Security. We've never reached
cantidad.
those heights.
Primero. Y
First.
segundo,
Second,
es el salario promedio más alto
the
que se tiene
average salary,
ahora. 15,500
15,500
mensuales
monthly pesos
de esos trabajadores.
of those workers. Never you've seen that before.
Y
And of course,
récord
record
en
on
incremento en salario mínimo,
in minimum salaries increments.
como ahora.
Minimum salaries have not gone up as they are now. But I'm going to say it in this way. Never before since registry
Se había logrado una
did we manage to get
desempleo tan baja como la que logramos
an unemployment
2.9
rate of 2.9 low. 2.9
al grado
to the degree that
de que nos faltan obreros calificados. Nos faltan fierreros, que son los artesanos de la construcción.
the rate of unemployment is low. We need more welders.
Ahora
We need more
estamos
workers.
viendo la forma de controlar
We are looking at the way to regulate the temporary visas to work in the U.S.
porque se están llevando
because they're taking
fierreros,
welders, iron
que
workers,
necesitamos
welders, laborers that we need
industria
for our
de la
industry
construcción.
of construction.
O sea, estamos bien.
So we're doing good on that.
Otra,
The other one.
esta,
Okay, this one.
21,734,000
21,700,034 workers.
Teníamos este récord
We had this record here.
este 21,724.
This one, 21,724.
Ah, no, este.
No, this other one.
Es que este es noviembre, octubre. Y aquí cayó, empezó a caer, bueno,
This one's from November, October. It started falling
a marzo.
in March. Okay, March. So
A ver la gráfica, sí. Es
we'll
que
see the graph.
para que
So
en
that
diciembre se nos cayó
in December we dropped
porque son
because
los trabajadores
it's the workers that were hired as part-time.
es este.
So this is the one. Okay.
Este es noviembre, mire.
November here.
21,717.
21,716.
Aquí viene diciembre,
And then you got December over here.
que ya se cae
That is falling. Get a drop
porque despiden temporalmente
because there's
para
temporary
pagar prestaciones. Ya hemos corregido esto bastante, pero sigue habiendo.
unemployment because they didn't want to pay benefits, the famous outsourcing way that we eliminated. And here we started seeing it go up. And now, 14th was day before yesterday, 21,734. Historical maximum. So, we're on the way. We're doing good. And the peso, Mexican peso, resisting because there was two bankruptcies in U.S. banks, and it did have an effect in the whole market, global market. But of course, peso was stable. I would say stable, and we continue without devaluation of the peso. This didn't happen in 50 years. And we're doing good. So my last question is precisely of the peso. They said it was a responsibility of the managing of the macroeconomy, small companies. We don't have the same macroeconomies as we did, but it's been managing well. Question, next week you will be in Oaxaca. You will be seeing John Kerry, and especially what you've said in Istmo of Tehuantepec in Oaxaca. We've been asking that none of the other regions of the state are left behind, and we can have productive locations in Oaxaca state. But I want to ask you on your activities, if John Kerry are going to be arriving, and what's your agenda going to be? Well, we're going to be receiving legislators in Veracruz. There's going to be legislative members from the U.S. on Sunday, 19th. We're going to have a reunion there in Veracruz, in the port. We're going to be talking different subjects and situations. We're going to be speaking about the migratory situation, the treaty, security, of course, basically. We're going to be talking about different situations. There's senators coming in and representatives. There's around 10 or 12 senators coming in. Have this reunion. There's going to be media, information, open media in San Juan de Ulúa on Sunday. And I have to be going from there to Salina Cruz. I'll be going to the supervision of the refinery, and today I'm going to be in the refinery of Madero, because I'm going to all refineries every 2-3 months to see this, what you've seen just a few minutes ago, that we can get an advancement on the rehabilitation program of the plants, so we can get the purpose of the auto efficiency going. I'll go with Octavio, Rocio. There are two public servants of first class. They assist us a lot in what we're doing, with conviction, professional, working, and honest. they're not rats or thieves.
No son corruptos, pues, para decirlo.
Well, they're not corrupt, to see it, to say it a little better, because you know how the energetic sector was. There's this major corruption, terrible corruption, amazing. Remember that they used to say charro of Pemex, that was heavier, so every time it would get heavier of so much resisting corruption. And now charro is nice and straight. It's not fat anymore. And we're getting a lot of assistance there with these members. So today we're going to be at Madero, refinery of Madero. And then from there, the inauguration of the bank convention in Mérida. And then I'll go to sleep in Villahermosa, because tomorrow we're going to have the security reunion in Villahermosa, and then the press conference in Villahermosa, Tabasco. And then from there, we're going to go to Dos Bocas to evaluate. And then in the afternoon, refinery of Minatitlan to evaluate there. And then I'll come back tomorrow afternoon to be in the ZOCALO at 5 p.m. And in Sunday, we're going to see the U.S. legislative members to have this reunion, this exchange. I would say from Veracruz, I will go to Salina Cruz, to refinery, alone, to the evaluation of the refinery, and from there to Tuxtla to sleep, because Sunday or Monday we're going to do a reunion, of security reunion in Tuxtla Gutierrez, Chiapas. Conference in Tuxtla Gutierrez. We have a reunion to see the advancements of the banks of Bienestar with all the public servants that are in charge of the construction, the military engineers in Chiapas, the people that are in charge of the operation. We're going to be evaluating, of course. And from there, this will be on Monday. We're going to be in Oaxaca. There's going to be a reunion as well to evaluate the advancement of the Bank of Bienestar locations that are actually more than 200 in Oaxaca. Just as Chiapas, there's a lot. Well, in the whole country, basically. It's going to be the biggest bank with more locations, around 3,000 locations, even in the rural areas, to be able to disperse the money for the people, the pensions, the scholarships. On Tuesday, 21st, we also have the security reunion in Oaxaca, the press conference in Oaxaca, and we're going to be heading out to Guelatao
hacer un homenaje
to pay
al mejor
homage
presidente
to the
que ha
best
habido en la
president
historia
that
de
there's
México,
been in the history of our
Benito
country,
Juárez García.
Benito
Entonces, nos va a
Juárez
acompañar
Garcia. So
John Kerry
John Kerry will be coming in
a
with us.
Guelatao. Y regresamos a Oaxaca y tenemos una reunión sobre energías renovables.
We're going to go to Oaxaca again and
Ya nos regresamos.
with a reunion of renewable energies.
¿Mande?
And then we're going to be coming back.
No,
Are you going to go to the Dominican Republic convention?
no, vamos a tener una reunión
No, we're going to have a reunion,
virtual,
virtual reunion,
una videoconferencia
video
el día 5 de
conference,
abril.
the 5th of April, basically.
Presidentes y
10 presidents
un primer ministro
and a first
de
minister
América Latina y del Caribe.
from El Caribe.
Vamos a tener una teleconferencia, videoconferencia.
Teleconference, video
el presidente
conference,
de Chile,
Chilean presidents,
Alberto Fernández de Argentina,
Alberto Fernandez from Argentina,
presidente Lula de Brasil,
President Lula from Brazil,
presidente Petro,
President Petro of Colombia,
presidente Miguel Díaz-Canel de Cuba,
President Díaz-Canel from Cuba,
la presidenta
President from Honduras,
Xiomara,
Xiomara,
el primer ministro de Belice,
First Minister of Belize,
sí, Briceño de Belice,
Briceño from Belize,
Johnny Briceño de Belice,
John Briceño,
Luis Arce,
Luis
presidente de
Arce,
Bolivia,
President of Bolivia,
y también
as well, President of
San Vicente del Caribe,
San Vicente of El Caribe, that is the President of CELAC.
10. Es una reunión virtual.
10 of them. It's a virtual reunion, and it's a plan to economical exchange, commercial, marketing exchange, exportation, importation of food, and other goods to conjointly confront the inflationary phenomena, basically, because all countries, we produce and we can exchange merchandise, food, taking away tariffs, eliminating paperwork, importation, exportation, with the purpose that there are offer enough and that this helps to confront the lack problem. It's a first moment. It's going to be virtual through this video conference. It'll be at 10 a.m. Mexico time. And then we're going to have a present reunion, physical reunion, after that. Sorry about that.
Dio la vida. Él estaba en una guardería.
Oops.
El caso es que a 5 semanas, más de un mes de esta situación, ni las autoridades.
Let's see if I can rewind it a little bit. All right, let's see.
Gracias, señor presidente. Soy José Antonio Morales.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Jose Antonio.
Tragedia que está viviendo una familia en Chiapas.
We're talking about a tragedy that Chiapas is going through, maybe a month ago, Damien lost his life in a nursery, and almost a month ago, nor state or state attorney and state law didn't tell them what happened about this kid. First, they were told that he died in a pool. They gave him their kid still wet, dripping, and still haven't gotten any information about what really happened. And it's evident for them it's a tragedy that, in fact, has taken them to the possibility of coming in to knock on your door in Palacio Nacional to plant this, and also to ask for your intervention for somebody in Chiapas, and even the governor that hasn't said anything about this case, and so that this is not left impugned and without being taken care of. And that's happening. 5 weeks is a lot, so that they don't even get the concrete information about what happened with the children, with the kid. And even in Palacio Nacional, we're going to have to go to a food complaint.
Sí, bueno, pues sobre eso, hoy mismo lo va a atender el caso Rosa Isela Rodríguez, y yo voy el lunes, decía.
Yeah, Rosa Isela is going to take care of that, and I'm going to be in Tuzla. Hopefully that they can go and meet me there, because we don't want them going in a hunger strike. And we're going to be in security reunion conference, and then in the reunion of the Banco Bienestar franchises. And Rosa Isela starts looking into that starting on. Yes, we're talking about that because Fernando Cantona has done it with that. That's on one thing. And next one, in coming to the new impunity that you mentioned in diverse occasions, ask you what happened with this case. Do you remember the Institute to return the money that was stolen? In 2020, Jaime Cárdenas was the leader there, and he made public that workers of that same spot, and an emblematic institute, of course, with the work that is being done, but there's a jewelry that's been stolen, and of course, going the corruption. 47 claims were made on that time, but as you can see, there's been 2 years or 3 years, 23 already. And what information have you gotten about these advancements? Is there anybody detained at 3 years of this situation, of this? And I tell you formally that the claim has been done through this Institute of Transparency, and we haven't gotten a pronunciation on this. Is there anybody in trouble? Is there anybody? Well, first we need to be see about the complaints. But Jaime Cárdenas, he left just like that, and started saying and denouncing that he was arriving. I think he acted more in a political way. He didn't act with honesty, and I think that's the way I see it. But I don't know if he presented a claim. Yes, he did. Okay, so we're going to look to inform. Well, they don't notify me because I'm not there anymore, and they're right. They didn't have the right to do that because I'm not there anymore, but they would need to inform whoever's in need of that, or even the General Attorney's Office. So if there's a claim, we're going to inform you, okay? Who can I see it with? You can go with Jesus. Yes. I can see it with him. Yes. We don't allow corruption of anybody. Zero corruption. Zero impunity.
No somos iguales.
We're not the same.
Yo creo que Jaime se equivocó en
I
eso,
think Jaime was wrong
¿sí? Entonces, por cuestiones políticas,
on that, and because of political situations,
se le hizo fácil
it was
decir,
easy for him to say, well, I'm leaving
aquí hay mucha corrupción.
because there's a lot of corruption.
No somos lo mismo.
We're not the same. He's wrong.
Para nosotros la
For
honestidad
us, honesty is
es lo más
the most sacred of
en mi caso es lo que estimo más
actions. In
importante
my
en
case,
mi
is
vida.
what I think is more important
La
in my
honestidad.
life, honesty.
Entonces, ese instituto
And
está
so
ayudando
that
muchísimo,
institution is helping out a
porque
lot.
todo lo que
But
se
because
confisca,
everything that is
y él no entendió eso,
seized,
se
he
le
didn't
devuelve a la
understand it.
gente. Ahora que me hablaban de Oaxaca,
Everything that is
es un informe
confiscated,
que estamos llevando lo que se confisca, lo mal habido,
Están en la Mixteca ahorita, ¿no?
a la
where do you
Mixteca,
think we take it? Everything
se
that
llevan
we get from
tiendas
them.
con ropa
We take it to Mixteca with
y con mercancías
clothes and
de todo lo que
merchandise
se obtiene.
of everything that is obtained,
Y es un instituto
and it's an
importantísimo.
important institution.
Se llama Instituto para
It's
devolverle
called
al pueblo
Institute
lo
to
robado.
Return What Was Stolen.
Entonces, vamos a informar
We're going to be
y
informing,
no se acepta
and we don't accept
corrupción de
corruption
nadie.
of
Miren lo
anybody.
de Segalmex.
Look at what happened with Sedalmex.
Dio tristeza.
It was really sad to hear about that
Los conservadores
because conservatives,
siempre han estado
they've always
en
been
contra
against
de que haya una empresa comercializadora.
that there's a commercializing company.
Estuvieron en contra siempre de la CONASUPO.
They were always against Conasupo, milk.
Claro, la CONASUPO
Of course,
se
Conasupo
corrompió,
was corrupted,
como
as
los
was
bancos que daban
the
los
banks
créditos
that
ajenos
gave the
a los productores.
credits of the production in the farms, fields.
Había un banco que se llamaba
There was this bank called
Banco Ejidal, era Bandidal,
Ejidal, Bandidal called.
y eso
And
le
so,
sirvió a los neoliberales
that helped
para
neoliberals
el apoyo
to
al campo.
finish up with all the
Y para que
assistance to the
eh,
farming
hubieran precios de
owners,
garantía,
and that there wouldn't be
que no
guarantee
se
in
le
the
comprara a
pricing,
buen precio a los
that
productores.
the
Entonces,
producers
la
wouldn't get
corrupción
good pricing.
les ayudó
So
a
corruption
los
assisted
conservadores para decir, ahí está,
the conservatives to say, well, there it is, there you have it.
eso no sirve.
That doesn't work.
Entonces, ahora
So now,
iniciamos con lo de Segalmex. con
we
el
initiated
propósito
with the
de
Segalmex
precios de garantía,
to
para que el
set
productor vea compensado sus
guaranteed prices so that the production
costos.
owner
Llega Liconza y
sees
a
something
estas
beneficial, and then Liconza comes in
llega
to the institutions,
un
and
grupo
it was this group
que
that
propone Ignacio Ovalle,
proposed
una gente
by Ignacio Ovalle, a person that is good.
particular,
That is my particular point of view,
que lo engañan,
that he's lied to,
a los que recomienda
and the ones he recommends, a lot of people from the political party called PRI,
malas mañas,
of bad
acostumbrados
habits,
a robar,
accustomed to
los meten
steal,
y empiezan a hacer negocios,
and they bring them in and start doing business.
a comprar leche,
To
comprar
buy
carne,
milk,
pagando precios
corn,
elevados,
paying elevated prices,
y se descubre
and they catch them that there's corruption there.
y a lo mejor
They're
pensaban
caught, and they probably thought,
de que
well,
no iba a pasar nada,
nothing was going to happen. Well, so I gave the order
de que se investigara en
to investigate
la Secretaría de la Función Pública, Hacienda, bueno, se
Hacienda
recuperó
came in,
una
and
parte
then
del dinero
we were able to get half of the money
hay unas cajas
Because
de
there's these
ahorro
boxes, these
o unas financieras de estas que crearon en la época
savings
de la corrupción neoliberal
funds created in the neoliberal period that used to provide
intereses supuestamente
supposedly
elevados.
elevated interest, and they would deposit the money there.
Entonces, pero eran financieras que no tenían respaldo.
But there were people that didn't
Ahí
have
depositaron
a
dinero de
guarantee,
Segalmex.
and Mix deposited money there.
Entonces, cuando nos enteramos
So then when we found
de
out
que había ese dinero,
that this money was there, deposited,
les dijimos,
we
¿nos
said,
van a devolver el dinero?
well, are we going to get the money back?
No sé, creo que como
I think it
800
was 800
millones. Y
million.
no recuerdo exactamente. Pero
I don't remember exactly, but it was an important quantity.
A ver, pregúntale ya sea a Roberto Salcedo,
Well, you can ask Salcedo, Roberto Salcedo, Secretary of
y hablamos
Hacienda, and
con
we speak to
que autorizó
we spoke to the bank that authorized the operation,
y tuvieron que devolver el dinero.
and they had to return the money, but that was just a part of it.
Entonces, ahora ya salieron
So
las órdenes de
now
aprehensión, porque
there's
como
the
son mañosos,
warrants that were
tienen
pulled
una
out,
buena relación con jueces y todo, y no querían los jueces
but they have good relations with the judges, and the arrest warrants weren't issued by the judges because they were bought.
quiero decirles es,
And it took us time to get that.
sea quien
So what I
sea,
want to say is, whoever it is,
Gracias por su respuesta.
zero corruption.
a ver, pero ahorita les voy a decir cuánto
Sí,
fue.
está bien.
900 millones.
900 million, what was recuperated.
No sé exactamente.
Because I don't know exactly how much the
Sí, pero fue lo que
denouncement
se
was.
recuperó.
That's what
hay
we got,
pendientes.
but there's some
Por eso,
pending. That's why,
los intereses, y hay
all right,
ya
we're talking
8,
about interest, lack of interest,
en la cárcel.
that we need to take care of them. And there's 8 people in the jail for that.
Pues
Well, so I think they
nada más que
overtrusted them,
nosotros
and
no aceptamos.
that we don't accept corruption
Y más
is the fact.
tarde que temprano,
And sooner rather than later,
el que comete un delito es castigado.
whoever commits
Porque no somos
a
capaces.
crime, we're not going to be covering that up. I don't,
Pusieron los del INE.
I wasn't in here
No
due to
puso
INE.
Claudio X González.
Claudio Gonzalez didn't put me
No
on here.
pusieron los de la mafia del poder.
The Mafia of the Power didn't put
No
me
me
here.
pusieron los machuchones,
Machuchones didn't do
los
this.
potentados.
Get me on here. The empowered ones.
Me pusieron los mexicanos. Me puso el pueblo.
Mexicans put me on
Eso es
here.
lo importante
The
de la
people put me
democracia,
on here.
de la verdadera
That's the
democracia.
importance of the democracy, of
Por eso
true
es muy
democracy.
distinto
That's why it's really
la democracia
different
de la oligarquía.
of the oligarchy democracy of
No era
what used to be. It wasn't democracy.
Era oligarquía,
It was an oligarchy
con la pantalla de democracia.
with the fakeness and lie, the screen of
Es el
democracy.
poder
Oligarchy is the
de las
power
minorías,
of the minority.
es el poder de los ricos.
It's the power of the rich.
La democracia es el poder del pueblo.
Democracy is the power of the people.
Por eso
And that's why
son las diferencias de fondo.
the differences in depth
Porque
of what we have.
los que se
Simply
disfrazan
because
de
the ones that dress themselves up as Democrats, well, they're not really
en
Democrats.
realidad. ¿Ustedes creen que los del INE, este
Do you
hombre
think the people from the INE, this guy that is
que ya lleva 30 años,
with a
15
protection that
años
is 15 years managing INE, the budget, to how he wants it.
Con fideicomisos,
With a lot
con
of
sueldos elevadísimos,
high
con gastos de
payments,
representación, con viáticos. Bueno,
with
se le termina su periodo
trip payments, high trip payments, trusts,
y va y se ampara.
and he goes and gets
Después de 30
gets
años,
protection after 30 years, and he still wants to keep there.
¿Es demócrata este señor?
Is that democratic?
¿Eso es democracia? Pero el presidente del INE,
But then the president of INE, all the counselors,
vendida, alquilada,
the sold out press, rented press,
aplaudiéndole.
applauding him.
Los partidos conservadores
The conservative parties
defendiéndolo.
defending him.
Grandes
Great
simuladores,
simulators,
hipócritas.
hypocritical.
Pero esto es lo que estamos viviendo ahora. Tiempos interesantes.
This is what we have now. Important, stellar
En la historia
times
pública de México.
in public history of Mexico.
Eso no pasaba antes.
That didn't happen before.
Nos debemos de celebrar, pero además
We are celebrating, but now that we're undertaking all this information, all these changes, without violence,
de manera pacífica.
in a pacifical way.
Imagínense que
Just imagine how that we can
tratar el tema
deal with the situation
de que
that
el secretario de Seguridad Pública,
Secretary of Public Safety, Felipe Calderon time, was vinculated
con la delincuencia
with the organized crime,
y que había
and that there was a narco state, basically.
¿cuándo?
When?
¿En qué tiempo? O que digan
Or that they could say
Estados Unidos, algunos legisladores
from the U.S., some legislators, well,
que van a presentar una iniciativa
they're going to present an initiative to
intervenga el ejército estadounidense
have the U.S. Army to intervene here
combata a los
and fight the
en
delinquents
México
in Mexico
para que no vaya
so that there aren't
fentanilo a Estados Unidos.
any fentanyl coming in anymore to the U.S., and that
Toda una muy buena
all
polémica
this
sobre eso,
good polemic
porque
started
no se sabía
because simply it wasn't known
el fentanilo viene de
that
Asia,
fentanyl comes from Asia,
y no solo entra por México, entra también directo a Estados
and
Unidos.
it doesn't only come in through Mexico, it comes in directly
Pero donde se
from the
consume
U.S.,
es
but
en
where it's
Estados
being
Unidos,
consumed
que
is in the
lamentablemente
U.S. That
causa la
sadly
muerte
creates
de
deaths
muchos
of a lot of people,
jóvenes.
a lot of young people.
Pero allá,
But
no sé
there,
si ustedes sepan,
I'm not sure if you know,
no hay
but
carteles.
there are no cartels.
Allá es por telepatía.
Over there, they work with telepathy, okay? Everything.
Que
They get the drugs, they distribute the drugs to the users.
no hay allá
There's no
narcotráfico, ni hay
narco
laboratorios,
trafficking, nor laboratories, nor mafias.
no hay
There's none.
mafias allá.
¿Ratifica usted que aquí en México no
Do you
se
ratify
produce
that here in Mexico there's no
es que es
fentanyl
una materia prima
produced?
que se
No,
trae de
because
Asia.
it's
pero aquí no hay laboratorio?
a
Ah, no, sí. Sí, sí, pero esa materia prima, lo que se hace aquí, ¿sí? Y no
raw materials that they're not produced here.
es México, repito,
Mexico is not
el país que más
the one that
introduce
has or that
a
introduces
Estados Unidos.
fentanyl to the U.S. I sustain that
De manera
we
directa a Estados Unidos.
get more fentanyl go to the US and Canada directly to them than in Mexico. So here what we do is there's pills. The pills are made here in a small way. They make them as trocaleadas, troquelan. But the raw materials come from Asia. And then constantly we're destroying laboratories. But I was getting the observation that all the ones that we found here are blue. Pills. Blue pills. And over there in the US, there's different colors and flavors. Can't hear the speaker, but yes, yes, there are. This campaign that they were going to start. Can't hear it. Can't hear the question. Well, my opinion is that we're going to keep working, cooperating, helping, assisting, so that the fentanyl doesn't arrive to the U.S., nor that it arrives to Mexico. It's so much so that the scientifics, medics, in a serious way, not the ones that are against us, but medic staff that is against us, scientific, they're against us, very conservative, that when we stated that if there can be an analgesic that can substitute fentanyl to prohibit it. Yes, of course, there are scientifics and people from CONACYT studying the possibility. A lot of painkillers, but in the media, of course, political people and people that are very conservative, reactionists, they're talking about that I want the sick, terminal sickness people, no medicine, so they can take away the pain. In El Zócalo, we're going to speak about a lot of things, but all this is really important because yesterday I was speaking about something that we need to have very, very present. First is better the way of life of the people. First thing. Que haya buenos salarios, que haya empleos, que haya bienestar. That there's employments, well-being. That, of course, is the most important thing. Second, fortify values, cultural values, moral values, spiritual, because what we have, a great reserve of values, because Mexico was founded thousands of years ago, and here there were cultures established, great civilizations, and we inherited that. For example, fraternity in the families. That is really Mexican. And it comes from the deep rooted Mexican people, that families mutually assist each other. Because if it wasn't due to the family fraternity in Mexico, this would be converted into a hell, basically. And that helps us a lot. If a family member has a bad day, then others help him out. I would speak about the customs that our children are in home. They're at home, in difference of other countries. With all due respect, they're barely growing, and they are let go. They're sent out. I would tell you things that 20 days ago, for example, of a report but some parents went to denounce their kid. He was 30 years old and he hasn't left home. And the judge agreed, and they left him out. That is really rare that it happens in our country. I'm not
cuestionando nada, estoy describiendo lo que son nuestras costumbres, nuestras tradiciones. Nosotros no quisiéramos que nuestros hijos se fueran de la casa.
We don't want our children to leave home, of course.
Por eso abusan, ¿no? Y se quedan más tiempo.
That's why there's abuse, and that's part of our thing. And what's happening in the case of the U.S., me, for example, that I know the reality, social reality, that I've lived in indigenous communities, that I know the people from the bottom, that I've picked up their sentiments, that I was formed with the people. What do I feel? Well, that there's no attention to them, to the young people. Can hear.
Es muy bueno que esto se debata. ¿Qué es lo que yo pienso? Que el que recurre a la droga es porque está insatisfecho.
Because they're not happy, because they're unhappy,
Porque está solo.
because he's alone, the person.
Porque le falta
That's why
amor,
they resort
le
to
falta
drugs,
apapacho.
because his lack of love, lack of hugs, for example.
¿Qué respetuosamente
So
les
what
recomendaría?
do I respectfully recommend?
Que mantengan a sus hijos más tiempo en sus casas.
To keep their children a little
Y que el
longer,
gobierno les dé
and
para
that the
sus
government
hijos.
provides as much as possible to the parents,
Que no se
and
tengan que
assistance,
salir a los 18 años,
so that they don't have to
que
leave home at
terminen la
18,
carrera,
that they
y que ya
finish
una vez que
their
tengan
career, and
el
once
estudio,
that they have
que ya
certain studies, that the parents can
queden en
rightfully
libertad.
let them go, be free,
Pero que
but
se cuide
to take
a
care
los jóvenes,
of the young people. That's the
se
idea,
atienda a los jóvenes.
to take care of the young
Aquí,
ones.
¿qué
Here,
decía Narro?
what did Nara used to say?
Que eran ninis,
That there were ninis,
los jóvenes. Ni estudian ni
these
trabajan.
young people. They're not working, they're not
Nunca hicieron nada
studying,
por los jóvenes.
and they never did anything for the young people.
Lo que nos ha protegido a nosotros
What's protected
es que no
us,
damos consumo
that we don't have consumption,
excesivo de drogas,
excessive consumption of
son nuestras
drugs,
tradiciones, nuestras culturas,
are our traditions,
nuestras familias,
our
la vida
families,
comunitaria,
communitarian life,
el que no hay tanta desintegración de la
that
familia,
there's no
a pesar de que
separation,
con la
major separations of the family, aside from the
egoísmo
neoliberal,
y por necesidad
egocentric.
también, se rompieron muchas
For
familias.
necessity, there was a lot of breaking of families.
Pero a
But that cultures are protecting us. They've always helped us. And so it means to fortify values so that there's no consumption increase. Because if there are demand, there's violence. I mean, not only is it the ones that lose their lives due to overdosing, but because of that market that's on there, the narco selling, the gangs start fighting. And what happens? In a few places in Mexico, there's no extension to that. In our country, it's not what's happening in some cities in the U.S. where there's complete parks, streets taken. It's a real sad situation. Very worried, and we understand them perfectly. And because of that, this fourth point is to help, cooperate in all we can, so not only fentanyl gets them, that we don't have any consumption here, and that there's trafficking so that the drugs get to them. That's our compromise. And we're doing it as ever before. In the time that we're doing it, 6,000 kilos of fentanyl have been seized. 6 tons. Every kilo of fentanyl is 1,000,000 doses. And we've applied ourselves to Marines is in charge of the ports. Army is in charge of customs. That with propagandistic proposal and means, it's really worrying of what's happening in the U.S. because they're losing lives. There's a lot of people losing their lives because of fentanyl. But it's really powerless to use that and say, well, it's Mexico's fault. And in a very irresponsible way, say, well, if you don't get aligned with us, and if you don't submit yourself to the U.S. agencies, we're going to be presenting an initiative so that the Army intervenes and confronts the gangs of delinquency in Mexico. That is a lack of respect to our sovereignty. And besides, very hypocritical in them, Republicans. It's politics. It's to gain votes, basically. Very cheap. Very cheap. And what they're showing is that there are, if they can be called politicians, with no ideals, without ethics, and accustomed to see what's happening in other places, but not in their own. But what have they done? What is it for the young people of their country? What have they done to fight the gangs, so that in a true way, with integrity, the agencies of the U.S. government in charge of fighting drug addiction
o el tráfico de drogas.
or drug
¿Qué
trafficking.
no, acaso, como dije
What
hace
isn't
unos días,
isn't it like I said a few days
se
ago?
demostró
Wasn't it
que estaba la
proven
gente
that
de
the
DEA
one that
en
was a Mexico
se
agents in
reunía
DA office was
con
having
jefes
meetings with cartel
de
bosses?
narcotraficantes y lo descubren
And
y
then
lo
they
único que
find
hacen es
them, and the only
destituirlo
thing that they do
y no se vuelve
is
a saber nada más.
destitute him so that nothing else is known about that.
Esto no es de maniqueísmo,
That's not
no es de buenos
fake.
y malos.
It's not about good or bad.
Ellos son los buenos,
Oh, they're the
nosotros
good
los
ones, and
mexicanos
then
somos los malos. No,
we Mexicans are the bad people.
no
I don't
es
think
así.
so.
Entonces tenemos
So we have to.
¿la qué? A ver,
Oh, there you go. Okay. So we have
seguir cooperando,
to cooperate,
pero
but
con respeto a nuestra soberanía.
with respect to our
Porque
sovereignty.
México es un país libre
Because
e
Mexico
independiente.
is a free and independent. And
No
besides,
generalizo porque
I don't generalize because
tenemos la fortuna
we have
de
the
que el
fortune
presidente Biden
that President Biden
actúa con mucho respeto hacia México. Y siempre habla de que el trato entre nosotros tiene
and
que
that
darse
the
en un pie de igualdad.
treaty has to be in an equal way.
Y ha cumplido con eso. Estos son algunos legisladores, pues como los hay en todas
Okay,
partes.
yeah, the legislators are the same. Republicans,
Muy
as you find them in other places,
ramplones.
very talkative.
Pues esto es lo
But
que son
this,
las máquinas
these are the machines
que procesan esa materia
that
prima.
process these raw materials.
Pero la observación es esto que les
But the observation is this, is what I'm
son
mentioning,
azules
that they're blue here, all the ones that we are taking.
y allá
And over there, it turns out that
rojas y verdes,
there's
amarillas,
red, green, yellow, all colors
y sabores.
and flavors.
Y es una distribución masiva.
And it's a massive distribution. Of course, we were talking about,
Varias veces que repito, lo de la
there's a
serie,
few times that I repeat about that series.
¿la pones? Porque sí, porque la recomiendo,
Because I recommend it, really.
porque eso aclara mucho.
Because that clears out a lot of things, and this they didn't see.
Los legisladores
Legislators that are questioning Mexico.
lo que está en la serie.
What's on
de
that
que
series?
una
Where
empresa farmacéutica
this
quebrada,
pharmaceutical bankrupt
inventa
company
una pastilla,
suddenly creates a pill,
un químico,
a
como
chemical,
analgésico, y empiezan a decir, en Estados Unidos se padece de una crisis,
and start saying that in the U.S. there's a crisis and a pandemic of pain.
y a quien le gusta,
And who likes to live with pain?
pues mejor.
Well, then it's better to take the pill so you don't have any pain.
Bien,
And of
hay
course,
sociedades
there's societies that
muy proclives a eso.
are inclined
Tomando pastilla para todo.
to take that, to take pills about and for everything.
Entonces sacan esa pastilla,
And so they get this pill out for the pain,
eficaz,
very strong,
y obtienen el
and they
registro
obtain the registry
de la Agencia de Salud de Estados Unidos de que
of the
no era
health
adictiva.
agency that it wasn't addictive.
Y resultó que
And
sí
it
era
ends
adictiva.
up that it was.
Entonces la empiezan a tomar
And so they start taking it,
y se vuelven adictos,
and there's thousands of addicts,
miles.
and they lose their lives, thousands of them.
Y hay un juicio
And then there's this trial
donde la farmacéutica
where the pharmaceutical pharmaceutical is charged with $35,000 million, and it's still in being undertaken, that the payment of the fine, but it's calculated that it earned $500,000 million. They even would hijack the pharmacies just to steal this drug. That's how addictive it was. This in the US. What was being done? What did these legislators do? Did they speak against that? Did they bring out of the selling of weaponry, high power weaponry in their markets? In any store? That's why I celebrate what Biden did a few days ago to emit a decree to prohibit the selling of weaponry and to have more control on the sale of weaponry, because 80% that is being used here in Mexico by gangs, they come in from the US. And so, see the whole spectrum to help each other out, cooperate mutually, but not with the selfishness and the will of trying to submit us, the arrogance. Well, that's it. Adios, he said. Well, there it is, ladies and gentlemen. Well, thank you very much for being here. Gracias por estar con nosotros en otro día más. Un poquito tarde empezamos hoy, pero no se preocupen, vamos a tratar de estar con ustedes un poquito más temprano mañana. Espero. Pero si no, tengan confianza de que todos los días vamos a estar con ustedes traduciendo todas las mañaneras de nuestro presidente Andrés Manuel López Obrador. Buenos días, Ede. Gracias por estar con nosotros. Carmen Torres, Ana, Zuli, todas y todos ustedes que siempre están con nosotros. Standing, gracias por estar con nosotros. Jennifer, y a todos nuestros invitados especiales. To all our special invites. Take care of yourself. We will see you tomorrow again, hopefully early, if not a little bit later, but we'll be having this conference translated for you every single day of the week. Que tengan muy buenas tardes. Gracias por estar con nosotros. Ángel Ramírez, un servidor para AZTECRON Mexico for you. See you tomorrow.